5 years ago since we left the European Union, of course. And imagine my disgust when I saw the Conservative Party post this tweet yesterday, which I believe that we have got, where essentially they make an outlandish claim, an outrageous claim. They say they got Brexit done, did they?
No. I mean, well, this is the thing. Yes, on paper, and I think that's the thing is with politicians now, they just want to say we signed the piece of paper, we had the date, these kind of things. Brexit is never going to be done because it's something you're going to have to be constantly working at. It's a state of mind. It's about trying to find opportunities that we wouldn't have had if we were tied into EU legislation. Now, that has definitely not done. I wouldn't say we have really had a Brexit benefit economically, because, you know, you've got so many small businesses that are suffering because they can't trade in the way they used to. You obviously got young people say we can't travel like we used to, so they have to fill in forms now. And so I just, and this is the thing, they're saying they got Brexit done, but look at that. Look at how hard it was to even get to that date of even signing the official thing that they got done. It was years of fighting and saying we have to have second referendums, and Theresa May trying to appease everyone.
Right, so that's the key to this, which is Theresa May, who was a Remainer, didn't want to leave. She agreed to the sequencing that was proposed by the European Union, and that was the undoing of the entire deal. And then she had Ollie Robbins, who also didn't really want to leave, who was in charge of all of that. So we ended up with a terrible deal, and as I said, I'm listening to Boris Johnson's book. He certainly was complicit in all of this as well, and he kept talking about an oven-ready deal. We didn't have an oven-ready deal. We should have walked away.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I don't know ins and outs of all the legislation. I think that the problem with Brexit as well is there has to be a balancing. It was a very narrow vote. So,
52 to 48.
Yeah, that's very narrow. If you'd have had sort of 70%, then you know how there's less backlash against Trump this time because his win is so big. You can't really argue with it. And I think that Brexit was so close that no one had really thought, well, what happens if it's so close? Because you've got this massive chunk of people that really don't want this, and you've got a slightly bigger majority that do. And I think that was always going to be the hard thing, in fairness, of having such a divided vote.
So I think when you listen to people who are messaging in this morning, the majority are saying we would vote in exactly the same way. What they're angry about is that the Brexit was not effected in the way that they voted for. When you look at trade, which you mentioned, we got an FTA with the European Union, which means that we avoided tariffs. But the problem is we got these non-tariff barriers, the ballooning of bureaucracy, as you know, the annexing of Northern Ireland, all of that is a massive problem. We knew there would be an impact to the economy, but this was a long-term gain. When you look at many estimates of what has happened, well, maybe we saw a reduction of, say, 6% in terms of trade, but the EU, as far as I am concerned, is not the primary goal in terms of the economy. The idea was to be a free, independent, sovereign trading nation, and we can pick our deals with whoever we want.
Well, this is the thing. As I say, it's not about getting Brexit done. It's about an ongoing thing. Right now, a prime minister, in theory, in charge of this country, there's Brexit, should be like, oh my God, like the lottery numbers are in. There's a new president in America that loves this country. Let's get over there now and get some trade deals going. But of course, that's not happening. And this has been the thing all along, is the politicians didn't like the outcome and have dragged their feet and have kind of appeased too much, where you've got the worst of both worlds, I guess. But I come back to it's not all about, because I think this always the media always shifts it to the economy, which is important, don't get me wrong. But I just think the majority of people didn't vote on the economy. They voted on principle.
They did indeed. And of course, the idea was to also get control of immigration. Whilst EU migration has reduced as a result of this, of course, then the government, in their infinite wisdom, granted all these visas to people from all over the world. That is not controlling immigration, but it isn't, well, it is as a result of Brexit, but it was a choice made by that government.
Yeah, and as I was saying earlier, but this is the good thing now, is that these are choices made by government. They can't blame the EU for it. They have to take the flak for it.
Yes, I would agree with all of that. And of course, the whole point was about sovereignty. The other problem was that because they didn't know what they were doing, they took EU legislation, they kept it as retained EU law, shoved it onto our statute book, and Kemi Badenoch and all the rest of them said, we will repeal all of these laws. As far as I know, in terms of the 6,901 individual pieces of retained EU law, they managed to act something like 200 of them. They announced 600, they only got 200 done.
I know. But this is the thing, no one's happy.
No one is happy.
Brexiteers aren't happy because it hasn't been done to their standard. The Remainers certainly aren't happy. It's 5 years. We've got all these surveys now saying people want back in and people have learned. I think that if we ever did have another vote, though, I think it would be pretty much the same. I don't think that there would be this massive swing, because you would have the people that are saying, no, this is the will of the people. But you would also have these new people now that would say, no, this will cause too much trouble.
Yeah.
We decided something, and even though I might be a Remainer, actually, if our people give you an instruction, you better do it.
Yeah, I agree totally. Do you think Brexit has been achieved by the former Conservative Party, former Conservative government? Let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. Let's talk about my favourite person, shall we, Sadiq Khan. Crime is ballooning in the capital, as we know. We've got gangs ram-raiding these shops and nicking whatever they want. Sadiq Khan, though, has handed Londoners a £2 million bill for woke nonsense. This is according to the Telegraph, as he is also cutting the capital's police budget. So I don't know where you stand on this. He's funneled cash towards 5 new rainbow plaques. Here we are. This is one. It's a great film, beautiful thing, in 1996, but he's got a plaque which commemorates a beloved coming of age cinema classic. Now, £2 million seems an awful lot of money to be spending to have what they are calling woke statues and LGBT plaques. Surely the point about having a plaque is you are notable in history, and your sexuality is irrelevant.
I mean, as someone that spends a lot of time campaigning on bisexuality, I'm not helped either way by these plaques. £2 million. I could have made those for him for $5.99. I could have done an Etsy order. We could have got those done. To me, it's about optics as well. And you have to, and I would say I'm someone as a sort of a reasonable campaigner in the LGBT space. I understand public sentiment. I understand you don't push things too far, because then you'll get an even bigger blowback. To be doing this at a time where crime is ballooning, where even, I would say in myself, I now do not walk around the streets of London holding my phone. Because a concern I never would have had before, but now I'm like, don't hold your phone because anyone could grab it. That's a concern. I don't walk around holding my phone anymore. So when you've got, just everyday people having to change the way that they live, even if it's just in a small way, because they think about crime, it's like, put your things, and I think that it almost hurts LGBT people a little bit more when it's like, well, why is he spending this amount of money on this? Well,
he says, I'm spending £2.138 million in the Commission for Diversity in the Public Realm. It was established in the wake of Black Lives Matter protests in 2020. He says London's landmarks do not adequately represent the capital's history. It's led by a panel of 14 members drawn from the city's cultural and architectural institutions. He says the statues, plaques and street names don't reflect our city stories, particularly significant moments in London's LGBTQIA plus histories. Let's add some more letters to all of that, shall we, according to City Hall. I mean, I just think this will leave a very bad taste, as you say, in the council taxpayers of London, in their throats.
Yeah, which is sky high. Look, he's not wrong in the sense of, look, we probably want to update a bit of London's landmarks to reflect a bit of the modern times. It was illegal to be gay for so many years, and we're not even that far away from when it was, and actually maybe rebalancing the books on that, fine, but not when crime is this high. Or do it, fine, but as I say, do an Etsy order. You don't need to be spending that much money on things.
Yeah. Lots of messages coming in. Eleanor, good morning to you. Good morning, David. Great show as always. As for who should we discard, the whole blinking lot of them should go. Not one of them knows what they're doing. What a load of idiots. They're obviously not listening to anything that is going on in this country. Bring on reform. We are desperate as a country for change. This is Chris Gillard. Good morning to you. Chris says, I think getting rid of Starmer first would be better. Then hopefully a new leader would automatically get rid of Rachel from account. She is ruining this country. The problem is, who would you replace them with? We need a change of government ASAP. Ditching Starmer and or Rees wouldn't actually make a jot of difference, says Amanda in London, as the entire party is useless and rotten to the core. The thing that I find particularly amazing about this is how quickly the government has fallen. I don't think in history we've ever seen a government become so unpopular so quickly.
But that was always going to happen. They weren't really popular. I keep saying they weren't really popular before the election. They won by default. It wasn't a landslide. It was a sinkhole. So it was the fact that there were so many disenfranchised voters, and I think we forget about the people that just stayed home. Then you've got the split between Tories and Reform. That's what happens. Their vote actually decreased from Jeremy Corbyn. They were already going to be unpopular. And the thing is, they didn't read the room with that. They didn't think, you know what, we'll come in, we're going to have to prove our worth as we go. They've come in with big, bold ideas that have just not.
But I don't think
out.
they even had ideas. They had no idea what they were doing. They said they have a fully costed manifesto, they have policies to implement, and clearly they didn't. They're now saying to people, have you got a policy idea?
And I think the sad thing as well is they've got so many MPs now, they're not promoting young talent. Like you'll say, who would replace Rachel Reeves? Well, maybe it's someone we've never even heard of. Surely out of all of those MPs they've got someone that's really good in business that we might never have heard of, that actually they could start profiling some of the young talent they've got.
Yeah.